Welcome to Mount Panorama. It's John Hindorf and alongside me, Ryan van der Wecker. It's a beautiful day here at Mount Panorama.
We've got the production sports cars coming up and a number of high exotic machinery. Sometimes cars that we see run here at the Bathurst 12 Hour come back here as more of a test session for the Bathurst 12 Hour.
These are cars that I know very well indeed, and one or two of them that I would love to have a drive around.
My name's Adam Burgess, business owner from Sydney. I run a workshop called Advan Performance out of Auburn. Basically what I do is I live and breathe cars, so when I'm not in my workshop building cars, I'm out here playing with them and racing them. Bathurst is one of those places where, as humans, and motorsport, you gravitate towards this place. Some of the craziest laps, some of the craziest battles have been done around this place, so to be privileged enough to drive it is mega. And obviously the 6-hour weekend now is a huge weekend. It provides a lot for a lot of people in the motorsport arena. So anybody and everybody can almost get involved in it now. So to be a part of it as a sideshow is awesome.
I'm fairly new to racing, in actual racing itself. Only been doing this for 2 or 3 years, mainly historic racing. Prior to that, did a little bit of rallying. Had a friend of mine who races. He said, "You're mad, there's too many trees on the road." So moved to circuit racing, haven't looked back, absolutely love it. Moved to production sports because you get an hour's races against 6 laps, and it's much better. The mountain is just the best place in Australia. Tried in Phillip Island, we travel everywhere with historics. Coming back to Bathurst is just so much fun. Any opportunity to race at Bathurst, I go for it.
Well, I picked up racing fairly late. I've been racing for 4 years. I've raced in 30 or 40 events in the last 2 years. Some club races, as well as some professional level racing. IMSA in the US, Pirelli World Challenge in the United States. Some SRO, GT events that are endurance events, and then the Bathurst 12 Hour. Bathurst is a very unique environment. You've got the mountain, you've got the straights, you've got the people and the crowd, as well as great racing. You've got international competitors there that add a completely different level to the competition. Once you do that event, you can go back and club race, but it's never quite the same experience. The adrenaline rush of being out there with world-class competitors on a world-class platform like the BMW GT4 car was an amazing experience.
So an incredible opening stanza to the weekend yesterday, of course, with our 1-hour enduro. So the format this weekend is that you've got 2 1-hour endurance races, one on Saturday, the other now on Sunday. So it was the Brad Shields, Andrew McPherson, iMac Porsche that took the win yesterday, and it was, I suppose, a great comeback story for them as well, because they started on pole. They were brilliant in qualifying on Friday, but unfortunately stalled on the grid, and they were lucky not to get collected, so they fell back to roughly about 10th position prior to the safety car coming out right on minute 20, which incidentally is the opening of the compulsory pit stop window. We'll explain more about that in just a moment. They jumped 5 cars in that pit stop process. They returned in position 5, and then the back half of the race again was truncated with the safety car period, but they came from 5th to 1st in the space of a heartbeat and ended up winning the race by 12 seconds. So it was an incredible drive. Well, we've got a glorious day here at Mount Panorama. Sunshine on this Easter Sunday. Where in the world would you want to be? And we have got some exotic machinery in front of us here right now, about to do battle for 1 hour. The sound of Porsches at Mount Panorama on the rev limiter. Race 2 of the production sports this weekend. It's the Shields McPherson entry with Daniel Stunner on the front row. They're being held here for a while and a long time, and they get underway right now. Yellow flags at the moment. A couple of people getting away sluggish, but a great start from Dan Stunner. He's going to lead the field into turn number 1. Lap number 1. Once again, like we saw yesterday, that Brad Shields, Andrew McPherson, iMac Porsche has gone from 1st back to 5th. Not 10th like we saw yesterday, but another sluggish start, but that will make for a very interesting 1 hour ahead. Dan Stunner has already got a huge huge margin over the rest of the field as they come over the rise of Mountain Straight for the first time. And here comes the Shields McPherson entry. Now, we haven't got the identification as to which driver is in that car at the moment. Of course, it also is a 2-driver format for some. There's 13 nominations up and down the lane that have decided to nominate a B driver for this weekend, and they do also have to make a driver change if that's the case, and contact at the cutting. Unfortunately, this is going to be a safety car and a major moment. Everyone else, thankfully in behind, has done the smart thing, heads up driving, stood on the brakes, and we're only going to have the one car caught up there, but drama on lap 1.
That's the Andy Skinner and Andre Heimgartner, number 46 Porsche, I think, that's gone in hard on driver's right. That Porsche is going absolutely nowhere, trying to make positions up on the inside. Was it the 46? Yes, it was. And it looked like, well, there was an Audi in close proximity there, Brian, but I think he's gone in there on his own.
Part of that combination this weekend is Andre Heimgartner. We might get more word here. He's standing down in the lane with Mark.
Andre, shame. The race over way too soon there.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Obviously, it's a shame for Anthony. He had a great run yesterday and made some good time up in his race. So something silly like that to happen, and obviously in that spot, it's never nice when you get turned around or whatever happens. So it's unfortunate. We're looking forward to a good race today. We had some good positives to take from yesterday, but I'm sure Anthony will recover and we'll get back out there.
Back underway here at the High Tech Halls Bathurst 6 Hour for the 1-hour production sports car race into Murray's Corner. Back down the pit straight, Dan Studdard. A nice restart. The Moore Kelly entry just a little bit further back at the moment in that Audi R8. But I think the person you've got to really watch for is Keith Kasugi on this restart. Speaking of restarts, Rio Nagara right down the inside there at Hill Corner.
Yeah, in the Audi, making the use of the aero of that car as well as the really good brakes. He must have got heat into the brakes and the tyres really nicely. That was a confident move down the inside to take the position. The top 3, though, are pulling away to make that the top 4. Then the battle pack from that 88 Audi just having moved up into 5th position, and then everybody else is 5th.
Hopefully we can get through the cutting cleanly this time.
Stop it.
It's so to play devil's advocate. Look at the fluid there on the driver's right, so obviously they'll be certainly aware to that. The first time though in green flag conditions on this Easter Sunday, the cars will romp up towards the top of Mount Panorama. I tell you what, for Dan Studdard, he hasn't quite got away yet at the moment from the rest of the field. And the iMac Porsche at the moment sitting position number 4. This is what we saw yesterday. Their opening period of the race isn't as strong as what they are towards the end of the race. Dare I say, it's probably maybe Andrew McPherson in that car at the moment, and he'll hand over to Brad Shields a little bit later on as well. Of course, former winners in the Australian GT Championship as well. So for the first time this race at minute 15 or 14 at the moment, almost 15 into this race, they're going to come down the S's ginger pace, I'd say, at the moment, because it is still a long way to go.
Yeah, they'll still be getting heat and pressure, therefore, into the tyres, because sitting behind the safety car, any that they did build up before will have disappeared. And I know it's hot, everybody will be thinking, what is he talking about? The tyres will be hot, of course they will be. Well, you pressure the tyres and expect those pressures to come up a little bit as the temperature on the carcass goes up, and you can't overpressure them, otherwise you'll get no life out the tyres. And I know this is only an hour-long race, but you will find a bit of tyre drop off at the end. These are relatively heavy GT cars. Battle for first and second at the end of the chase. Xavier
West here looking down the inside in that 55 Audi and gets the job done. Something completely different than what he's used to. He drives the GT4 BMW, believe it or not, in the Australian GT Championship. He just came from there last weekend. Of course, was 3rd here. No, sorry, I should correct myself. Was 5th here at the Bathurst 12-hour in Class C. That was the car that had troubles and damage, remember, at Forest Elbow that particular day.
Well, he's making that 55 Audi sing at the moment.
It's interesting to note too, we haven't made mention of it, different classes here in this particular 1 hour as well. So Class X is what you're seeing right here at the moment. Of course, our 2 litres outright in front. So Class X is basically our thoroughbred GT3 cars. Class A is also here. You've also got Class B, the breakdown Class C, and then we've got 1 Class F car here this weekend, Dougie Barber in the 911 machine. So it's tightening up at the front right now. The margin last time through was saying 5.9 seconds. Well, it's certainly not that at the moment as they come across the top of Mount Panorama. But interesting to note, that compulsory pit stop window is going to open in 1 minute and exactly 35 seconds.
Keith Kasulka in the black Mark cars, Mark II. Remember, they started off with hatchback bodies on the tube frames. Very much an Australian car, this. Might look like an American muscle car. Does have a big V8, which actually I think now is a South African manufacturer that the crate motor comes for the V8s in the Mark cars. You can have them looking like a variety of hatchbacks, but this new coupe style car, what they call the Mark Cars 2, the blue car in third position at the moment, they've taken everything they learned, Brian, in those hatchback style cars and applied it and improved it and given a slightly more aerodynamic, swoopy body. It has the look of a Mustang, but it's, you know, it's not based on a Mustang, it's a Mark Cars design. Leader goes through, and that 5.6 seconds, well, he's done another quickest lap of the race, 2:07.7 for the leader, and here's that battle for second.
And that's a very good point that you mentioned, because bang on, this car right here, Andrew McPherson behind the wheel at the moment, he's going to hand over to Brad Shields here. So the iMac Porsche, the first car to come into the lane at the moment, bang on that compulsory pit stop window opening.
Yellow lights flashing on the start line, and I think we've got a safety car. I think we've got a safety car. It's the 51 Porsche, as Brian said, just comes into the pit lane. How lucky have they been? They got in just as it was called. The Lamborghini, this number 6 Lamborghini, the safety spot, Richard Gartner car, is into the pit lane, the Lamborghini REX. So they have timed it perfectly. The leaders, of course, went through. So the 99 Audi, the 23 Porsche, the 91 Mark Cars, all of those and more went through, and they are now slowing down, and they're going to lose track position.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly are. So, here we go. This is the shots.
If you can, oh my goodness. Well, that's why.
And that's
the Porsche. Is that the 48 car? 68 car, excuse me.
And quite often there at the great section, Sulman Park, that can often be quite a sizable impact there. So
the wrong way around there, isn't it?
Yep, it's the wrong way around. So typically what happens, you come towards the grate there. If you're too far over on driver's right and your basically right wheels are on the grate, the car steps out because you're on the marbles, and then basically it backs itself into the wall.
Let's find out what's going down in the pit lane. Mark, what do you have?
Dan here with Gary. Just popped out of the Audi. Dan Gort behind the wheel now. How were the opening exchanges for yourself?
Oh, look, it was a barrel of laughs. There was a lot of carnage out there, but everyone else was kind of behaving themselves. Had a ball.
Obviously, working with Dan, he's a good benchmark to pace yourself against.
He's far better than I am. He's a pro. He's fantastic at what he does. And even though there's been a mix-up with the safety car, I think we're still in with a chance for this.
They come underneath the high-tech oils bridge, and at frightening speeds they come back down into Murray's corner. But how is the margin already from second back to third? They're getting caught up, and Rio, you've passed underneath the yellow still. He's going to try and redress that possibly, but he can't do that. So he's unfortunately gotten a little bit cheeky there on that restart, and now they're stacking up behind him. We're almost 3 wide in an overlap here into turn number 1 at Hell Corner. The Shields entry moves up into position number 3. Almost the big loser out of that is the Kelly number 99. There's contact coming out of Hell Corner.
And that was the Rio in the 88 and the 51, the Audi as well, as they went the 99 as they went side by side. The 51 Porsche did get through as we thought, but Rio, what were you thinking, man? It was that 944 Porsche that caused that. Nothing that Cody West could do. He was flat out, only had 240 horsepower, brand new, that car, great handling. He did exactly the right thing, stayed on the racing line. Rio saw the gap down the inside and went for it, but that was a huge overlap before even the apex of the final corner, never mind the control line.
Yeah, interesting to note, though, he's fallen back into position right now, but no doubt the officials will certainly have a word to him after that. You can see the debris flags, the oil flags at the moment, just letting drivers know that there is still some fluid on the road at that particular point of the racetrack. The grate that we mentioned, the cars fly down, load a lot on the right-hand side of the car, and these cars are just brilliant across the top with their high downforce package.
These GT3 cars, the fastest thing across the top of the mountain ever, as far as closed-top cars are concerned in competition. Extraordinary how much speed they can take through some of the most difficult and nuanced corners in any motor racing circuit in the world.
So they're coming out of Forest Elbow at the moment. Of course, Stutter was the leader once the field came back to green. You can see the shots there at the moment that Keith Kasuki is right in behind. And here comes the Brad Shields iMac Porsche as well. How much margin can he make up on these leaders towards the back end of this race? We've only got 15 minutes to go. The checkered flag will come out, incidentally, bang on the 1 hour. So that's what's going to happen. It will fly literally bang on the 1 hour. It will fly on whoever comes across the line first. And incidentally, once that time does expire, that will therefore be the final lap. So the margin at the line, from first back to second, it is currently at just 7/10 of a second. You go further back to 1.8 seconds and you find Shields in position 3.
Yeah, and he's done a great job. Bradley Shields did exactly the right thing on the restart. He bided his time, he waited, he didn't make the... I mean, I know everybody's under pressure and they really want to get the best restart they can, but you've got to know the rules here. But behind him now, not one, but two hungry drivers. Keith Kasuki's going to have to make a move shortly at the top of the mountain, and he's going to try and make it side by side down through the S's. You just don't make that stick. But here comes Bradley Shields. It's a 3-car battle for the lead.
That side by side down the S's is something we see Shane Van Gisbergen do here in February. Not at the moment. It's crazy right now. So Shields is closed in. You can throw a blanket over the top 3 right now. Stutter already starting to move that car over, making that Porsche as wide as he possibly can. Now the slipstream effect is going to be crucial here. Watch for Shields in this iMac Porsche, position number 3. He's darting on the right-hand side of the road at the moment. You've got to be careful because there's a crowd over the course in the middle of the racetrack there. So it can be very difficult to control these cars at frightening speeds heading down Conrod Straight. Picking up the curb there a little bit with Keith Kasuki on that right front. Down under brakes into the chase. This is a scintillating battle right now. Kasuki looks strong in second spot. He's got to be careful how he goes about this because here comes Shields and he darts across the road there to Keith Kasuki. They've really got to be careful here. It's almost like they're fighting for sheep stations right now. This has got the recipe almost for disaster, Johnny.
Oh, this is brilliant stuff. Two different types of cars with the engine at the back in the Porsche and down the inside. Here comes Shields into Hell Corner. Classic overtake here at Bathurst on the High-Tech Oils front straight and gets it done clean as a whistle. I think Keith there might have just had a bit of target lock on the leader and wasn't maybe covering the inside line as he was coming into Murray's. Maybe didn't think Bradley was close enough, but he was super confident on the brakes there. Lovely overtake, and now let's set about the leader. Just a slight difference in configuration of the two Porsches. The second of the Porsches running as an RSR. Now that normally would designate that was a WEC or an IMSA car, but there's just a slight bit of bodywork. It's still running as a GT3, of course, but there's some subtle differences on that car that follow on from the RSR road car. You'll see there's some louvers over the front guards that the lead Porsche doesn't have. It sits a little wider at the moment, so they're not exactly the same, these cars, and they will have different strengths and weaknesses. And Bradley Shields likes the flat 6 pushing him down the Conrod Straight, but the outright speed of the 23 studded car pretty good. Once it gets its legs stretched, it is hitting VMAX quite nicely.
Maybe not so much got the higher downforce package that that car in behind has, so it's probably got a little bit more of a slipstream effect, of course, in that straight line. But where this Porsche makes up its speed is under brakes, and we saw him go for the move on that previous lap into Hell Corner, turn number 1, and this is where it's going to be right now. So Shields will move the car towards driver's left here, darts on the brakes really late, change for the lead with 10 minutes left in the 1 hour enduro here at Mount Panorama for the production sports cars. As we predicted, Brad Shields into the lead and no doubt will set off into the sunset.
That's a fabulous point that you made there, Brian, about the extra aero that the now leading Porsche has. You see the second place Porsche is a little bit narrower, doesn't have all the little flicky aero bits that stick out there, just a little bit smooth around the rear arches as well, not perhaps as wide. That makes it slippery in a straight line down the tubes, and there's some fast straights here.
Big move looking down the inside. There's not much room to move there, unfortunately, for Bertree. Thankfully enough, though, he just stood on the anchors enough and decides to sit back in fourth for the moment.
It is an interesting corner, the Forest Elbow, because there are a number of different lines you can take. I've spoken to drivers around here who absolutely say, no, I take the classic line, stay out to the right-hand side and then cut back, use the downslope and the camber. There are other people, David Brabham, one of them, always goes down and hooks the wall on the left-hand side and then just turns in almost if it was a NASCAR style, banging back to corner and speedways it out again and pops jumps out onto the exit.
It's so enticing, isn't it? Because that concrete wall actually squares itself off in the middle of the corner, and that's actually caught some people out over the years too. So here comes Murtry now. We'll move the car towards the left-hand side of the road here, heading down into Hell Corner, and this time by will get the job done. There's not much room between the two of them though, but into position number 3 now for Murtry, and will set his sights on Daniel Stutter, who is, you've got to say, doing a remarkable job because he's holding off that pressure at the moment. How's the margin from first back to second? 4.9 seconds, and here comes Daniel Gaunt as well, moving this car hard right, and now we'll go back towards the left-hand side of the road. Keith Kasuki is defending for his life right now as they go up through Griffin's Bend.
Yeah, and Keith is struggling, I think, for a little bit of rear grip. It's very, very hot indeed, and he's just not getting that V8 power down to the ground. Now that's, if that is the case and Keith's struggling for a little bit of rear grip, it's going to hurt him coming out the corners, but actually it also helps you on the way in. Once the tyres start to wear, you don't have the balance of the car and you can't be as aggressive coming into the corners, and he certainly can't then trail brake the car. And what I mean by that is just hold the brake on beyond the turning point towards the pointy bit of the centre of the apex. You can't do that when the tyres are starting to go off. He might have to go up a little bit on the traction control to help that, but then that's going to hurt him punching out of the corners. It's a very fine balance, but Keith is fighting a rear guard action at the moment.
This is a great battle, isn't it? Really enjoying this. It's interesting to note that for Dan Studdard, he needs to hold on to this position, obviously, to finish on the podium for this weekend. But the Shields McPherson entry with Brad Shields behind the wheel, like we mentioned, has gone. I'd be interested to see what this Dan Gaunt car can do. Of course, 4th in the train right now. If he got clear air, the lap times on that Audi would be absolutely mighty as he moves now and looks towards the inside. Now, this is going to be dicey because they're going to be side by side at the kink at frightening speeds here, but we'll get the job done just before it, which is crucial. So Dan Gaunt now moving up another spot here and just inside that top 5.
What's that, 270, 280k, something like that going in there, and that's where the aero, the additional aero of the R8 was really helping Dan Gaunt. Meanwhile, into Murray's pass for second position. Check that for second position. As through goes the 991. Vince Murray goes through and takes that, and now Daniel Gaunt's got to do the same thing. It will be 3 across the track into Hell Corner, and coming from a very long way back. The Audi wasn't really there and backed out of it. Actually, in the end, that was pretty good driving by the Audi number 124. That's the Dan Gaunt car.
He was pinched up there on the curb, wasn't he, as he went through Hell Corner that time by Dan. Was not giving him an inch, and quite within his means.
But he's not driving a defensive line.
No.
He's just going into the corner and saying, guys, if you can outbrake me down the inside, I will give you room. And we've seen he has on a couple of occasions, once for the lead and once when he lost second place. But I'm not going to make life easy, and I'm certainly not going to compromise my exit from the corner and let you big, more powerful cars get by me on the straight. My advantage is on the straight. I'm going to get on the straight as quickly as I can and get up to VMAX, maximum velocity, as fast as I can in this slightly narrower, slightly more slippery Porsche.
If he is blocking, he's doing it in a smart manner because he's moving the car at the last moment at the pinch of the corner, not moving it down the straights and really covering to hurt his exit speeds. He's just doing it in that gentlemanly manner to make sure that none of these guys in behind get past. But as we know, he's got a very strong Audi sitting in behind. He might be half a chance here very shortly.
Stays about a car's width away from the edge of the track over the brow, and then just drifts across to the left-hand side. But a good run down the inside by the Audi, and well, that's perfect. Daniel did everything he could. He didn't try to fight into the chase, and through goes Dan Gaunt on the 23. So the two Dans battling it out there.
Oh, and unfortunately down here at Murray's Corner, the 72 has come a cropper into the sand trap, and that will be maybe a localised yellow down there.
Doug Smith and the Smith STMP Porsche, one of the 3.6 Class A cars.
Our class leader as well.
It was a Class B car, yeah, it was our class leader. Oh, well, that's great news for the second of the Class B cars. Now, jumped or pushed in that very pretty blue Porsche? Answer, jumped. Locked up, back end, Murray's in the bunker.
That's odd, because he was a long way off there, wasn't he?
I wonder if maybe he had an issue further back.
They'll come underneath the High Tech Oils bridge, and it'll be safety car that will possibly cross the line first. But if you're up there on Murray's Court at home as well and joining us across the world, make sure you make a bit of noise, because Brad Shields will come across the line with Andrew McPherson this weekend and take the 1 hour win for your production sports cars events here at Mount Panorama. 2 from 2, believe it or not, and that goes off their win they had in the 1 hour enduro last year on Sunday as well. A tremendous drive from the pair of them, and Brad Shields certainly earned his money. Of course, Bathurstian as well, we need to make mention. Brad Shields, a local here at Mount Panorama, so he knows this place like the back of his hand. So Brad Shields takes the win. Vince Murtry home in position number 2. Dan Gaunt position 3. Daniel Stutter in the end in 4th. Keith Kasuki, Nick Kelly, Richard Gartner, Ian Pretty, Jose Fernandez, and later on through Ross Lilly, completing the top 10 there for our 1 hour enduro.
We started off pole from the win yesterday, so that was really cool. Andrew struggled with the start a little bit because the car's not really designed for a standing start, so he dropped a few places back to about 5th or so. We pitted under safety car, which was ideal time. So yeah, we were able to get back up to first, so it was really cool.
So there we have it, production sports cars here at Mount Panorama. Thanks so much for joining us at this glorious Mount Panorama precinct.